Hi guys, this is a beginner yoga for equestrians class. I designed this class with equestrians in mind, but you don't have to be an equestrian to take this class. So it'll be great for anybody with tight hips, tight hamstrings, and is new to yoga. So before we get started, I want you to gather a few props. You don't have to have actual yoga props. You can use whatever you got. So 2 blocks, or anything block-like a couple big thick books work really well. And then I want you to place one on either side of your mat near the top. And then a yoga strap. Anything strap-like will work, like a belt, dog leash, whatever, lead rope, whatever is long and strap-like. Place the strap off to the side. We won't need it for the first part of this class. Place your blocks near the top of the mat, one on either side of the mat so you can grab them. And when you're ready, we'll get started at the back of the mat in child's pose. So come to sit on your heels, and you can take child's pose a few ways here. So one, you can take your knees together like this, and then drape your upper body over your thighs. Rest your forehead down on the mat. If it feels better on the hips to widen the knees, you can take your toes together, knees wide, same thing. If you're really tight and you're struggling, you can even grab a block here. And so just widen your knees a little bit, put the block in between your feet to support your bum, and then come forward over your thighs. So take your child's pose of choice here. I'm going to go toes together, knees wide, because that is my favorite. And walk your upper body forward. Rest the forehead on the mat. Allow your whole upper body to be heavy. Take the first few minutes of this class to check in with your body. Where are you tight? Where are you sore? Where does your body feel good? Let's take a moment, tune in, feel it out. Take one more breath here. Take a deep inhale through the nose, deep into the belly. Exhale, let it go out the mouth. On your next inhale, we'll slowly rise up onto all fours. We'll come into a tabletop position. So shoulders stacked over your wrists, hips over your knees. Your toes can be tucked or untucked. Draw your belly button in towards your spine. This is tabletop position. So pay attention to your hands and the way they're placed on the mat here. Ground down evenly through all 4 corners of the hand. Fingers are spread and gripping the mat. We'll take a nice deep inhale and then drop the belly. Open the chest, lift the gaze, lift the tailbone. Exhale, round the spine. Tuck the tailbone, tuck the chin, push the mat away from you. Inhale, drop the belly, lift the gaze, lift the tailbone. Exhale, round the spine, push the mat away from you. Inhale, drop the belly, open the chest, lift the gaze. Exhale, round the spine, push the mat away from you, tuck the tailbone. Inhale, keep moving with your own breath at your own pace. This is one of my favorite ways to start warming up the spine. It's slow and gentle, and it gets you moving through the back. It's not always an area in the body that we move, like this regularly. It's really good. It's really good to take some spinal movements. After your last round, come to a neutral spine. Tuck the toes under if they're not already, and then lift the hips up and back for downward facing dog. So in downward facing dog, we'll start with our base. Ground down evenly through all four corners of the hands, and then push the mat away from you. Lift the hips and the tailbone up towards the sky. Send the energy down through your heels, down towards the mat. Your heels do not have to touch the mat, just send the energy down as you're lifting your tailbone and your hips up towards the sky. If you're really tight through the backs of the legs or through the low back, take a nice deep bend in the knees. That'll help create length through your spine and ease any tension, that's maybe too much through the backs of the legs. One more breath here. Deep inhale, fill the belly. Exhale, let it go through the mouth. Inhale, we'll rise up high onto the toes and slowly tiptoe your feet all the way up to meet your hands at the top of your mat. Take a nice deep bend in the knees here for a ragdoll forward fold. Bend your knees so deeply that your belly can rest on your thighs. Grab opposite elbows and allow your whole upper body to hang super heavy here. Release any tension in the back of the neck. Maybe shake your head yes. Shake your head no. You can stay here in stillness and just hang, or option to have a little more movement. Maybe sway your hips side to side or forward and back. Just transfer the weight through the feet. And slowly release your hands down to the mat. Lengthen the spine, halfway lift. Bring your hands to your shins. Keep a nice deep bend in the knees. Soften the shoulders away from the ears. Lengthen out through the crown of the head. Exhale, fold back down, forward fold, fingertips to the mat. Inhale, we'll rise up to stand with a flat back. Wing the arms wide, keep the bend in the knees. Long flat back, rise up. Bring your arms all the way up high, palms to touch at the top. Exhale your hands through heart center, and then release the hands down by your sides. This is mountain pose, so your feet are hip distance apart. Ground down evenly through the feet. Lift your arches, maybe take a little look down and check to see how your feet are aligned. Roll the shoulders down the back, palms face forward, gaze forward. Draw your belly button in towards your spine. Draw your front ribs down to engage the core. Even though you're just standing here, this pose is always very active. Inhale, reach the arms up towards the sky, palms to touch. Exhale, widen the arms, hinge from the hips, soften the knees. Forward fold. Keeping that bend in the knees, lengthen your spine for a halfway lift. Bring your hands to your shins, up to your thighs, wherever you need to get that long, straight spine. Draw your shoulders away from the ears. Exhale, fold back down, forward fold. Ground your hands down into the mat, and we'll step the left foot back towards the back of the mat. So bend the right knee. You're high on the ball of the back foot for a runner's lunge. So now's a good time to grab your blocks if you need them. It'll bring the ground just a little closer to you. So think length through the spine. So push out through the back heel, lengthen the spine all the way up through the crown of the head, gaze forward. Couple breaths here. Exhale, release your back knee down for low lunge. You can leave your toes tucked or untuck them, whatever feels good. Inhale brings you up. Reach your arms up towards the sky, low lunge. Your right knee is stacked directly over your right ankle or slightly behind. Hips are square towards the front of the mat. Find your depth here. Maybe you can send the hips forward and down a little, but keep activation in the legs. Don't sink so deep that you feel any crunching in the low back. So find your depth, find your edge in this pose. Should feel a nice stretch through the left hip flexor, the front of the left leg. Exhale, release your hands down to the mat. Option to use your blocks here. Pull them back to where you need them. And then straighten the front knee, flex the front toes for half split. So adjust your blocks, maybe closer under the shoulders. So this can be a pretty intense stretch on the hamstring. It is probably my favorite hamstring stretch. So keep flexing the right toes. You want to keep this leg active. So this is an active stretch. Keep your hips square. So maybe you kind of pull the right leg back into the hip socket to square your hips. That'll make the stretch more intense. So be gentle with yourself. Find your edge. If it feels intense, breathe deeper. Visualize bringing breath into the right hamstring. As you exhale, bend back into the front knee, ground your right foot. You can walk your hands and your blocks up towards the top of the mat. Again, use the blocks if you need them. If not, you don't have to. And then ground down through the left hand. And then reach the right arm up towards the sky, twisting from your belly button. So try and keep your hips square. And this is just an upper body twist. Open the chest to the right. You can gaze down towards the left hand for balance, or up towards the right hand and towards the sky to challenge yourself a little bit. You'll feel this a little more intensely through the hips. Every inhale, lengthen the spine and the crown of the head forward. Every exhale, maybe you open the twist a little deeper. Exhale, release your right hand down to the mat. Again, option to keep the blocks. Tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, step the right foot to the back of the mat, lift the hips for downward facing dog. Again, push the mat away. You can also use your blocks here for the hands. It'll help create more length through the spine if you're feeling like this pose is really intense. Always keep a micro bend in the knees and down dog. If not, a nice deep bend is great too. It'll bring more length through the low back. Inhale, rise up high onto the toes. Slowly tiptoe your feet up to the top of the mat. Nice deep bend in the knees, fold it forward, forward fold. Inhale, length through the spine, halfway lift. Draw the shoulders away from the ears, hands to your shins or your thighs. Exhale, fold it forward, forward fold. Inhale, keep the bend in the knees, hinge up from the hips, long flat back. Reach the arms up, palms to touch. Exhale, the hands to heart center. We'll go through that sequence on the left side. Release the arms down. Inhale, reach the arms up towards the sky. Exhale, hinge from the hips. Flat back as you fold forward over the thighs. Inhale, lengthen the spine, halfway lift. Exhale, plant the hands. This time the right leg steps back to the back of the mat. You're high on the ball of the back toes for runner's lunge. So think length out through your back leg, long spine, gaze forward. Option to use your blocks here. Exhale, release the right knee down to the mat. Inhale brings you up for low lunge. Find your depth here. Keep the legs active as you sink the hips forward and down. Option to leave the back toes tucked or untuck them, however you feel most secure. Your left knee is stacked directly over the left ankle or slightly behind. Breathe here. Exhale, release the hands down to the mat. Glide the hips back, straighten the front leg, flex the front toes for your half split. Keep that front foot very active. Pull the toes back towards you. Gently pull the left leg back into your hip socket to square the hips. It'll create more activation through the stretch. It'll also up the intensity. Think length through the tailbones. Keep sending the tailbone back, lifting your chest up. Bring breath into the left hamstring. This can be an intense one. As you exhale, bend back into the front knee, ground the left foot, walk your fingertips forward, right hand on your block or on the ground, left arm reaches up for a twist, twisting from your belly button. This is an upper body twist, but you'll notice that it changes where you feel this lunge in your legs. I find it brings it more into the hips. Keep opening the chest to the left, gaze up towards your left hand or down at the mat. Inhale, think length through the spine. Exhale, maybe you twist a little deeper. Exhale, release the left hand down to frame your left foot. Tuck the back toes, lift the back knee so you're back in that runner's lunge. And then step the left foot to meet your right for downward facing dog. Push the mat away from you. Lift the hips and the tailbone up towards the sky, sending your heels down towards the mat, but it's okay if they don't get there. Couple breaths here as we build a little bit of strength. Inhale, rise up high onto the toes and then slowly drop your knees down towards the mat. Untuck the toes, sit back on your heels, and we'll come to lie down on our backs. We don't need the blocks anymore, so you can push them out of the way. Have your strap handy where it's easy to grab. Come to lie down on your back. Feet flat on the mat, about hip distance apart. Bring them in towards your bum. And then we'll start by lifting the right leg and cross the right ankle over your left thigh. As you do so, flex the right toes and use your hand to push the right hip open and away from you. This is reclined pigeon or reclined figure 4 stretch, and it'll stretch into the right hip and right low back. So this might be really intense for you right here if your hips are really tight. So just stay here, breathe through it. Keep opening the hip away from you. If you're not feeling a lot of stretch and you feel like you can go a little deeper, clasp the hands behind your left thigh. Lift the toes up off the mat and then use your arms to pull your left leg in towards you. As you do so, keep sending the right knee away from you. Again, if this is way too much for you, stay with the left foot planted. Breathe into the right hip, the right side of your low back. Keep both feet flexed and active. Slowly release your left foot back down to the mat. Uncross the right ankle. Take a gentle windshield wiper of the knees side to side. And then we'll set up for the other side. So right foot firmly planted into the mat. Left ankle crosses over the right thigh. And then flex the left toes. Keep the left leg active. And send the left hip open and away from you. You can use your left hand to help send the hip open and push it away from you. If this is a lot for you, you're feeling the stretch, that's great. Stay right here. If you want to go a little deeper, clasp the hands behind your right thigh and then pull your right thigh in towards you. As you do so, send the left hip open and away from you. Both feet are flexed and active. Keep breathing, even inhales and even exhales. The breath is so important when you're in an intense stretch. If you hold your breath, you're most likely holding on to tension. So only go as far that you can maintain a calm, even breath. If you feel like it's too much, like you're needing to hold your breath, back off a little and breathe there. Slowly release your right foot back down towards the mat. Replace the left foot back down on the mat and gentle windshield wiper of the knees. Now we're going to grab our strap, so keep the feet planted on the mat as they are. Grab your strap, lift the right foot, and then place the strap around the ball of the right foot. Find your depth to where you can reach and straighten the left or the right foot up towards the sky. Flex the right toes. Use both hands. So you want to find a depth where your shoulders can stay relaxed on the mat. You don't want to be up here holding onto it. So find your depth here. It's a nice stretch for the right hamstring. If you feel like you're okay here, it's not so bad, it's not too intense, you can straighten the left leg long down the mat. That's going to change the stretch a little, make it a little more intense. Keep the hips and the low back grounded on the mat. Breathe deeply into that right hamstring. And as you start to open up, maybe you can walk your hands up the strap a little more. Doesn't matter how far up your leg gets, the point is to just feel the opening through the back of the leg. Opening the hamstrings will help relieve any kind of low back tension, low back pain. So wherever you are, keep breathing. Place your left foot back down onto the mat and then slowly release your right foot down. We'll go to the other side. Right foot is grounded into the mat. Put the strap around the ball of your left foot. Reach the left foot up towards the sky. Keep a little micro bend in the knees. You don't want to hyperextend or lock it out. If it's really intense, you can actually keep a little bit more of a bend in the knee. You just want to play around so you're really feeling the stretch evenly all the way through the back of the leg. If you're good here, you can straighten the right leg long down the mat. Find your depth. As you start to open up, maybe you walk your hands a little higher up the strap. Replace the right foot back down on the mat and then slowly release your left leg down. Release the strap. Put your strap off to the side. Hug both knees into the chest. Take a little rock side to side. Release out the low back. Place the feet back on the mat, hips distance apart. Hands can be flat on the mat or open them out wide. We're going to take a couple twists here. So lift your hips up off the mat, shift them over to the left, and then allow your knees to drop slowly over to the right. You can gaze out over your left shoulder. Allow this twist to be really passive. Relax as much of your body as you can. Slowly use your core strength to bring your knees back up to center. Gaze follows. Bring your hips back to center. Recenter your whole body. And then lift and shift your hips over to the right. And then slowly drop the knees over to the left. You can gaze out over your right shoulder. You don't have to do the gaze. You can keep gazing straight if this is really intense for you. Try and relax as much as you can. Allow gravity to do this twisting for you. Bring your gaze back up to center and slowly bring your knees back up to center. Straighten your body out. Hug the knees in towards the chest. Again, a little rock side to side. And then reach the arms through the legs. Grab the outsides of the feet. If you can't quite get there, grab the backs of the thighs. If you can though, grab the outsides of the feet. Lift the feet up towards the sky and pull your knees in towards your armpits for happy baby. Lengthen the tailbone down towards the mat. It's okay if it doesn't get there, but just that action of lengthening the tailbone down. You can stay here in stillness or take a little rock side to side. Move around in this pose. Play with what feels good. Gently release the hands from the feet, hug the knees into the chest, one final squeeze. And then release your legs long down the mat. Allow your feet to splay out, arms down by your sides, draw the shoulders down the back, palms face up. This is Shavasana, our final resting pose. We'll be here for a minute or two. Allow your whole body to be heavy. Allow it to sink into the mat. Release any last little bits of tension you might be holding on to. We'll rest here. Slowly begin to bring some awareness back into your body. Take some little movements with your fingers and your toes. Begin to circle the ankles, the wrists, maybe the hips. Reach your arms up overhead. Take a nice big stretch from your fingertips all the way down to your toes. Slowly roll over to one side, whichever side feels good for you, and rest your head on your bottom arm. Take a moment here before you slowly press yourself up to a seat. Keeping your eyes closed, if you can, come to a comfortable seat. Take a moment to absorb everything that you did throughout this practice. Thank yourself for doing something good for your body today. Thank you so much for taking the time to get on your mat today. Thanks for practicing with me. We'll see you next time.